Theresa May flew to Brussels for the EU Council summit, which is focusing heavily on Brexit. It follows the government's defeat in the Commons over the withdrawal bill yesterday. MPs, including those from her own party, went against the Prime Minister to secure a meaningful vote on a final deal struck between the UK and the bloc.
Well, the Prime Minister could have been forgiven for expecting a much worse day in Brussels on Thursday. She suffered a rather humiliating defeat in the Commons on key Brexit legislature on Wednesday evening. Some of her own party, well, turning rebel to vote against her in that. However, she did receive a very warm welcome, all in all, from those EU leaders she met up with in Brussels. Of course, many of those have their own big issues to deal with back at home. But the Prime Minister, when she arrived in Brussels, seemed bullish and certainly quite enthusiastic about the future heading into this conference.
Disappointed with the amendment, but actually the EU withdrawal bill is making good progress through the House of Commons, and we're on course to deliver on Brexit. We have won 35 out of our 36 votes on the EU withdrawal bill. It is making good progress in the House of Commons, and that means we are on course to deliver on the sovereign vote of the British people to leave the European Union, and that's what we'll be doing.
But there's no glossing over the fact that there are EU leaders meeting with Theresa May that are demanding clear answers from the British Prime Minister when it comes to what happens next with Brexit. We heard from Antonio Tajani, the President of the European Parliament. He said that he didn't want to see any more sleight of hand techniques from the British. We understand he was referring to what David Davis had said over the weekend in relation to agreements made on a future Irish border, or any potential future Irish border, being, well, only in name only and not being clarified. He said he wants to see them written down and part of proper legislation. The Austrian Chancellor, he went further. He said Brexit should be done away with. But we're also hearing from some of Theresa May's closest allies, really, or people that should be Theresa May's closest allies. Mark Rutte, the Dutch Prime Minister, saying that he's looking towards the British Prime Minister for a clear outline on how she sees the UK's relationship with Europe post-Brexit.
I think we need from her to understand how she sees this future relationship with the European Union. It is now for the UK to make up its mind, and then for together, to collectively, to see where we can get to.
Well, not the worst day that Theresa May could have expected on Thursday, but she's got to come back again on Friday and do the whole thing over again for day 2 of the European Leaders Summit in Brussels.
And this all comes as Theresa May could be set for another Brexit blow. Following the government's defeat last night, rebel Tory MPs have vowed to vote against the government again over the date for leaving the EU being enshrined in law. Theresa May had planned to table an amendment to the withdrawal bill, setting the time of Brexit as 11 a.m. on March the 29th, 2019. Many are now questioning whether she will do so, but Downing Street says that the move will go ahead. There was a piece of good news for the government today, though, as Brexit Secretary David Davis was found not to be in contempt of Parliament over his handling of supposed secret studies into the impact of Brexit. But he was still reprimanded.
Ministers could, with advantage, have been considerably clearer in their statements, particularly in challenging lines of questioning in select committees which were based upon a genuine misconception. While it was most regrettable that the Secretary of State, a point that I made to him privately but I now state publicly, unilaterally excised some material from the papers which he provided, and that it took so long to provide the papers, I also feel bound to pay due attention to the formally recorded view of the committee that the Secretary of State had complied with the order of the 1st of November. I have concluded, from the evidence which I have seen to date, that the test which I am bound to apply, that there is an arguable case that there has on this matter been a contempt of the House, has not been met in this case.
Joining me now for more on the latest Brexit developments is Professor John Ryan from the London School of Economics foreign policy think tank LSE Ideas. John, judging by the reaction yesterday to that defeat in the Commons, it looked like it was really a serious blow for Theresa May, maybe a leadership challenge leading to a general election and perhaps even derailing Brexit. What happened yesterday? Is it really as bad as that?
No, it's just another accident along the road. I mean, Theresa May is not very good at politics, and she misjudged that whole vote. Her whips didn't get their act together, and again, party management wasn't very good. And you got the rebellion, and you got her humiliated, really, and that's the problem for her. She really is gone from one accident to another accident, and she looks like she's heading towards another one next week.
On this vote about the timing of Brexit.
Yeah.
What are the implications then if she's defeated on that one?
Well, I would expect that she might learn from her mistakes and that she would make a compromise there, because I think that she would be ill-advised to go ahead with that vote, because it looks like there would be another rebellion and she would be defeated.
What do these votes against what the government's trying to do mean for Brexit ultimately? Because obviously the opponents of Brexit, whether it's either to derail it or indeed make sure it's a soft Brexit, they've got the wind in the sails at the moment, haven't they?
They do, and I think she's misplaying this in a large way. I mean, the hysterical headlines from the Daily Mail today about the so-called traitors was just completely over the top and complete nonsense. What this is happening is that, you know, taking back control meant that the Parliament would have sovereignty, and this is what these people are doing, and are actually providing a service to the government to actually make sure that this goes a little bit better than it would normally go, because we've seen that the Prime Minister, David Davis, and the Foreign Secretary are not very good at this at the moment.
But she was worried, obviously, that this could have an impact on the Brexit negotiations themselves, and she promised that the Parliament would have a meaningful vote anyway, so why do they need a legal a promise to do that?
Well, she promised, but I think people wanted to see it. And Davis promised that they would have an opportunity to vote, but they just wanted to see that in legislation.
Right, you're very critical of Theresa May, the way she's handling this, but Labour, they'll be doing just as bad a job, wouldn't they?
Yeah, because I think what's happening now is actually this is making Labour actually become more coherent about Brexit. Because if you look at John MacDonald, Jeremy Corbyn, and a couple of other cabinet ministers, they all have kind of different nuanced views about Brexit. And of course, the election campaign that we just had a few months ago showed that they were very sort of neutral. They weren't really playing their hand as hard as they would need to. I think this is actually putting the focus on the Labour Party to get its act together on Brexit.
So what you're saying, it hasn't really got its act together yet.
No.
But it also, Labour MPs have got to be aware that so many of their constituencies, the people in those constituencies voted for Britain to leave the EU.
Yes, and they're actually saying we are respecting that vote, but what we're trying to do is actually make this work, that in the end that we get a deal that will work with the European Union. But the problem is people don't listen to what their European counterparts are saying about a lot of these issues either. So we've got a kind of bubble here in Westminster where people talk about special deals and Canada deals and Canada plus, whereas the Brussels side would call it Canada dry, which would mean it would be a better deal than what Canada got, but probably not with a financial services element in there. And that is exactly what the British would want, with some kind of deal on financial services. So yeah, we're plodding along, and she's making mistake after mistake, but she's the best game in town for the Brussels group at the moment, because they look at the options in the cabinet, Boris Johnson, you know, David Davis and others, and they shudder at the thought of having to deal with those people.
Professor John Ryan, thank you very much indeed. Good to talk to you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for joining us.